This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. Welcome everyone to part 11 of the series on Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid. And today we're going to speak about the opinion of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef related to a city in Egypt where Bechlal, they don't know anything about the Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid. They're not aware of it. And if you look at number 56, Rabbi Ovadia says, Maisim b'chol yoim, that the chassan and the father-in-law, they have the same name. The kala and the mother-in-law have the same name. Ve'ein poitze peh umetzaptzef. Nobody opens their mouth and tweets. Nobody. V'nira shehiviam lisa ba'ofen kazeh ein lehodia klum. Says the Ovadia, shehabam lisa ba'ofen kazeh. Someone who comes to get married in such a way, don't tell them about it. In other words, if you're the rabbi and they come to ask your advice, don't say, oh, by the way, you know there's a Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid, that that's not a good idea. Nemar ha'idna dedash b'rabim shomer p'sayim Hashem. That nowadays that people trample on it, we say God guards the fools. I know somebody who works in an office, and on his he has a sticker on his front door, shomer p'sayim Hashem. Yeah. Anyway. And the next segment we read last time, the Ovadia quotes Rachmim Chaim Yehuda Yisrael, the Abezin of Drodos, who writes that in his city they were not choshish for this until one Chacham came along and he was Dorish Barabim, and he told them about the Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid and then Nispashe Lizar. And says Rabbi Ovadia, he doesn't agree with that. God should forgive him because because of that, many people are going to be mitzdayer to marry off their daughters. And the Mechaber there defends the practice that they're machmir because of a certain story where somebody got married to somebody with the same name as their father, and the guy dropped dead immediately on the spot. And Rabbi Ovadia said, with all due respect, we do not learn halachas from isolated incidences. Well, let's get to the upshot. Says Rabbi Ovadia, number 56, about 10 lines from the bottom of the right-hand column. He says, unfortunately, in our times, there are very few people who tremble at the word of the Lord. Where does the word charedim come from? Some people treat the halacha casually, and some people take it seriously. And unfortunately, there aren't that many people today that are serious about Torah and halacha. Like the Gemara says, Ra'isi b'nei aliyah v'hema mu'atim. I see people who want to grow are very few. And even God-fearing people in a mediocre way are few. B'amnasina Rabbim, the chinuch is very on a lower level. And the Jewish people have diminished. And it's hard nowadays to get a good God-fearing groom. In such a scenario where their kavana is l'shem shamayim, the reason the girl wants to marry and the family wants this guy is because he knows how to learn and he's a yari shamayim. Says Rabbi Ovadia, ein lacha shamash shmai kashem chamev. Don't worry about it. Mitzvah habal yadcha al tachmitzena, v'lav b'chol yom misrachesh nisa. Miracles don't happen every day. Finding a good chassan is together a miracle. And you're not going to win the lottery twice. The fact that you found a guy who's a mensch and is Val Midos and a Yerushalayim and he could learn something, lav b'chol yom misrachesh nisa.
We're finding a color the same way.
Yeah, they're more good girls than good guys, by the way. That's Uvifrat, that's pretty well known, yeah. Uvifrat, sheyesh lachosh pen titein eneh ba'acher, she'eno hagam mitzad yiras Hashem, and you have to be worried, maybe she's going to like a different guy. Like it says in Soita, that Misharabu hayaharim, hischilu b'nei Yisrael yinasei liyahirim, when there were a lot of Balei Gaiva around, people used to marry them. She'ein dareinu roya ela lefanim, people only see externalities, and certainly in our Dar Yasaim, where there's a chash, who knows, maybe she'll even marry a Mechala Shabbos, Oichel Nevelos Treifos. The Yehuda says, anyway, he doesn't understand. People can marry their daughters off to an Amma Oretz, but what they're worried about is the names. So that's the first thing. Number one, get the kid married, because La B'chol Yom Misrachish Nisa. Says Rabbi Ovadia, this is all in a community where they don't know about the Tzava'ah of Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid. So don't tell them about it. You're not doing them no favors. Ois Yud Gimel. But let's say in a place where everyone's makbid. Let's say it's widespread. People are makbid on the Tzava'ah of Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid. And one guy and a girl says, I don't care about it. I have the courage to know this ain't in the Torah. It ain't in the Shulchan Aruch. It ain't in the Noisei Kelim. I'm not worried. I want to be Meiko. I'm allowed to be Meiko. You know,
I love him.
What?
And I love the boy.
She didn't say that. No. But she wants to get married, you know. I want to be Meiko. Uman to have a roitza lahakel. V'oimer she'ena makbid. Ein limchas biyada b'chazak. We're not going to force him. She's entitled to say that. V'koshikein. Shem kafatz echad v'shidech. And certainly, if she chapped the guy and got engaged or married, that they should consummate the marriage. Why? Listen to this. Says Ovadia, even in a community where the minhag is to be makbid and machmir, if somebody says, I'm not makbid, or somebody chap plaps the shidduch, let it go. You know why? Because even a katlanis, you know what a katlanis is? A woman who knocked off 3 husbands, or maybe even 2 husbands. So... right, so it's not a good idea. Who, by the way, who is it? Rus.
Right.
She knocked off Machlain. She knocked off Kilyain. Boyaz. Yeah? So you're now to marry a Katlanis. It's not usur, but it's just not a good idea.
The odds aren't with you here.
You know, if you want to celebrate your second anniversary, it ain't a good idea. People who are cowardly, we don't recommend it. We're afraid that they could be go under because of this. Now there are chachamim who say you're not allowed. Again, the Rambam writes in a Tzava'ah that it's not usher to marry a kalan. It's just we don't want you to. But even the Shitas Harishanim that say you're now to get married, we say like this. We say to the woman, if you find someone who wants to marry you, we're not going to make you divorce him. Basically, even the woman who we say loy tinase, we would secretly make it happen, and the Bezdin Haggadah, the Rif would do so, and the Bezdin of the Ibn Magash would do so, and we do the same in Mitzrayim, says the Rambam. So says Ovadia, if regarding a katlanis where it's mentioned in Shas, we say such a thing that will let the marriage go through. Ve'ein moicha. Certainly, when it comes to the Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid, that somebody who wants to be mekel, we will not scream at them, even though the Rosh argues on the Rambam, and the Rosh holds that if you marry a katlanis, teitzei. But that's only first of all, the Rivash agrees to the Rambam, and the Shulchan Aruch agrees to the Rambam, and we pass like the Rambam loy tinasei. And certainly this that has no yisoid in Shas, the Rosh would be maskam that you could even get married l'chadchila, and so on and so forth. So that's another factor, says Ovadia. Even in a community that they're makbid, if a girl says, I don't want to be makbid, she doesn't have to be makbid.
That's not the way it works.
So I'll tell you the truth. I got a phone call yesterday. And I will not say the names to protect the innocent, but one of the very chashuva mashgichim today, in one of the premier yeshivas, wanted to marry off his granddaughter to his son. Meaning, he wanted the uncle to marry a niece. So, now, normally when you ask Reb Chaim Kanievsky, he says, not a good idea. And he went to ask Reb Chaim. Chaim said, go for it. And the family wasn't happy. This is late breaking news. I got this call yesterday afternoon, and then I said, I confirmed it.
So what is it?
And so he went back. He told the family said, yeah, but did you ask Reb Chaim specifically about the Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid? So they called back, and the Gabbai said, You asked Reb Chaim specifically about the Tzava'ah. Reb Chaim's always makbid on it. So the Gabi went to Reb Chaim, and Reb Chaim said, he asked Reb Chaim, you know the person who called 2 weeks ago, but what about the Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid? And Reb Chaim said, I knew what he was asking. He should go for it.
Go for the Tzava'ah.
No, go for the marriage. And they did. And they got married very recently, based on the Psak of Reb Chaim. Now they're happy. What?
Why are they calling you now?
Because I gave a shir on it. They wanted me to know the story. I mean,
You weren't Pascal.
Alamaisa, I had heard.
But if Reb Chaim is makpid, what was his reason in this case not to be makpid?
I guess he knows. When you know, you know. You know. When you know, you know.
It's done already. It was
I can't comment more than that. But that's a nice shaya. I had heard about it. I don't want to say anything because it was not confirmed. But the person called me. The person emailed me. He said, if you want to know the story, call me. So I called him. Anyway, here's another factor. If you want, I could tell you more details off camera. Okay, I could probably say it on camera, but I'm not going to. Fine. There's another factor here, and that is Rabbi Ovadia says the whole Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid is talking about someone who's fresh on the market and has many options and many opportunities. So you say, what are you marrying your niece? What are you marrying the sister of your brother's wife? Just find somebody else. But for somebody who's not married and it's already showing silence and emergency, we dismiss the whole Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid. And at what age do we say, my goodness, it's showing sight already. It's too late. You got to just get married already. 20. If you're not married by 20, all bets are off. It's mamish sakana.
But the Tzava'ah Rabbi Yehuda doesn't say that.
It's pashut because back in the time of the Gemara, you have to get married at 18. And now if you're 20 already, you're already an alta bachar. It doesn't matter who, just yeah, there you go. So, says Rabbi Ovadia, based on the Gemara in Kedushin, Chav Tesamid Beis, look at number 58. Rav Huna letameh. Rav Huna goes according to his reason. The Amar who says, Ben Esrim Shana. If someone is 20, V'loi nasa isha, and doesn't get married, Kol yama ba'avera. His whole life will be in sin. Says the Gemara, ba'avera sa'kedaitach. In sin, Ela ema kol yama b'hura avera. The purity of thought will be affected. Amar Rava v'chein tan dvei Yishma ad chav shana Yosef HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzapa adam masa isa isha. Up to 20 years old, God's waiting. No, what's going on? Shan sight more than the mother. The Rebbeinu Shalom.
So what? It's like doing shidduchim is like Kriyas Yamsuf, right?
No.
So Rebbeinu Shalom has an Indian in this whole thing. He's a guy of the day, right? And 40 days before this flag is.
So they say.
We say this person for that person. So it's not happening. So he's not making it happen, no?
You got to make it happen. Because you don't. Shema yikadmenu acher.
He's going out every other week. He's got another girl. He's going out.
No, he's not going out. He's not going out to get married. He's going out to have fun. You have to slap him up, knock some sense into him, and tell him,
What about the age of a girl?
A girl has to get married at 12 years old. And by 12 and a half, it's an emergency. That's Medina the Gemara.
Pulling my leg.
No, I'm saying Medina the Gemara.
And we don't like
No, obviously not. We don't do that. But
what would we say about
you want to know Bizman Hazeh, if Rabbi Ovadia is applying it to age 20, what age would we apply to a girl?
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, in my yeshiva, they like get married the latest. They wait till 24. You know, I got married early. I got married, a year before. Now even in the yeshiva world, they're pushing guys to get married earlier to solve the shidduch crisis. You see, the mathematics of it is, you know what the mathematics of it is. Every generation, let's say in 2000, the year 2000, there are 10,000 boys, 10,000 girls. In 2001, there are 15,000 boys, 15,000 girls. In 2002, there are 20,000 boys, 20,000 girls. So the problem is, if the boy is 2 years older than the girl always, then the boys' pool is much smaller than the girls' pool. So that automatically will mean there are 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 girls who unfortunately have nobody to get married to. That's what the statistics say. So if they get married at the same age, so now it's not a 10,000 boy pool to 15,000 girl pool, it's 10,000 to 10,000. That's why they're trying to push the ages closer. Many Rosh Yeshivas signed on to this. I don't think my yeshiva signed on to it.
Who came to the Rosh Yeshivas with this statistics?
It's not rocket science.
No,
It's very simple. It's very simple. It's very.
Mathematics makes sense.
In other words, the Jewish world is this.
How many observant Jewish boys were out here? Who's
No,
got that statistic?
the Jew. No. You don't have to measure.
Exactly.
The Jewish world is increasing in size, right? So the number of available girls there are this year is less than there'll be next year, and less than there'll be in 2 years. So the boys of the 2018 pool are less than the girls of who are 2 years younger.
Are you looking only at the FFBs? What about the Yoris that come? The Yoris that come?
Yeah, but in the yeshiva world, they're not.
You don't looking at that.
They're not. They're not in the market for that, right?
Lewis would never make it.
It's not just the yeshiva world. It's even in any world.
Even the why you would.
In any world, right? Anyway, look. But on the other hand, as ill-equipped that boys were in the past to get married, they're even more ill-equipped today, right? And as immature as they were in the past, and as selfish and immature as they were in the past, it's even
That's a problem with yeshivas then. So they push them to get married, that increases the likelihood the marriage won't work.
Yeah, look, every community has its issues and its ways of dealing with it, and it's something you have to think about. But the point of Rabbi Ovadia is that, you want to factor in Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid, very nice. But at the end of the day, you got to get the kid married. And if this is the right one, so then you do what it takes. The same way, would an Ashkenazi marry a Sephardi? It's pretty common, it's pretty often. Or a Sephardi marry an Ashkenazi? Pretty common. Is it their first crack? For some, maybe, yeah. And for others, they prefer the same. But after a certain time, people, like in anything in life, after a certain time, person says, it's now, as they say, it's now or never,
Once had the shear regarding what parents are standing in the way, right?
Yeah. Do parents have a right in shidduchim? In general, not. In general, not. There's no kibbut of ha'im when it comes, unless it's something extremely significant and grossly embarrassing. But if it's
I had a girlfriend, her father used to say to her, he walks, he talks, he wears pants, what's the problem?
Okay. That's the way to solve the shidduch crisis. Okay. Rabbi Yosef, let's continue here. So, what?
In the community that they match to Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid.
Yeah.
Can a girl go against it or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Especially if she's
So look at number 59. Most guys who get married, they're above 20. V'yadua, Chazal say, by 20 you got to get married. Every minute earlier you could get married, you should. In other words, according to Ovadia, if you're debating a wedding date, should you do it June 20th or June 19th? Mitzvah gedolah to June 19th. Every day early you could. Because of the Tzava'ah Hachasid. And like Mari Schwartz writes in the Ginzei Yosef, Shematza and the Tshuva of Maram Greenwald, Shehela Shekal Hazarahu, the whole Azhar it's only talking about someone who didn't reach age 20. Once you're 20 years old, don't think about anything. She flunked her SATs, good. She makes a good chicken soup. That's it. We don't care about anything. What? Aval higia le'esem. Okay. Umitzvah zuzei nashi l'haktam atzah d'var mitzvah. Yafa sha'ach as koidam lihinatzam milatusa. Better to spare yourself of the curse of Chazal of tipach atzmaisav. And by the Tosfos and Kedushin says the same concept. Now another thing he says. He says, the Reb Chaim Falaji is makbid, that you need to tell the people you're violating the Tzava'ah Yehuda Hachasid. He says Ovadia, L'roiv hatirdos lo yacholti lehisbasem midvar ha'kedoshim. I guess I'm too busy to understand what he's talking about. But one thing he says I do like. He also says, Rabbi Chaim Falaji does not entertain the leniency that once you're 20 years old you could be lenient. However, regarding what he says, that if nobody in the city knows about it, don't make a big deal, that I agree with. And ultimately, Ovadia Yosef quotes Mahara Papo, and this is what the doc brought in like 2 weeks ago, that when it comes to Shidduchim, the way it works is, Me Hashem Yatsa Hadavar, that Arbam Yom Koidem Yitzir Savlad, Basko Machrezo Zomeres Bas Pliny Lepliny, which means Ribbon Shalom has very complex and supernatural ways of making Shidduchim happen. One of them is, if he wants to make a Shidduch happen, he makes sure not to educate them about the Tzava'ah of Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid. And therefore, if Ribbon Shalom sort of hid the Tzava'ah of Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid from this couple, so should you. He says, I have on the sheet number 60 here, from Lezer Papo, the author of the Palayoyitz, that Ki inyane hazivugim nigzar min hashamayim, v'chasher nigzar min hashamayim, kadosh baruch hu magager sayilam yudiyam yizam mizdavgim. If they need to get married, Hashem will arrange for them to get married. V'lachein ein legalos them, so don't tell them. V'lo yisuna aleim ra, nothing bad will happen. Shomer p'sayim Hashem, God guards the fools. But if somebody knows about it, so that's a different story. To be broadcasting? You mean, should you give a shir about Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid? That's part of God's ways, you know? What?
Good topic for discussion.
No. Yeah. Tzava'ah, more people know about the Tzava'ah of Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid than not stealing. You know?
Yeah,
So,
unfortunate.
so there you go. Okay, so this is part 11. Okay, I'll end off with one more part, and then maybe, you know what? Let's hold it over here, and we'll have another part next time. Okay?
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.